Good morning, grade sixes. Welcome to IXL English again. We have finished our memory books and timelines and all of the things that we want to put into our time capsule. So my suggestion is for you to put them all into like a big Ziploc or into a box or something to keep them safe, and so that you can bring them back to school, deliver them when we know what's happening with school. So we're going to go back into IXL. Please do keep chipping away at those assignments for your time capsule and get those all complete. But we're going to go into literary devices. We've started P1 already. I think it's in week 6 because we spent a week doing your time capsule. So look back at P1's lesson if you haven't yet gotten up to 100 for that. And I have brought the notes through for this week, and I have added to your notes as well. So if we look at the literary devices notes, right at the bottom, I made a little list of common English idioms. These are the ones that you are likely to come across. And these are ones that you're going to come across on a more regular basis. You are likely to get more than this list in your IXL. I think there's actually 4 or 5 different ones about idioms. So you're going to get a lot of practice with idioms. Idioms I really like because they really color your language. They're sometimes extremely funny. They add a lot of picture to what you're trying to tell them. Description helps them to understand, oh, okay, this is what's happening. However, if you don't understand what the idiom is, then you don't know what they're talking about. You might take them literally, where you actually think, for example, let's look here, if we can make this a little bit bigger. You think, oh, this is up in the air. It's up in the air about when we're coming back to school, right? It's all up in the air. You may have heard people speaking like that. So what is up in the air? Could you catch it? No. That just means that there's a request for something and you're waiting on somebody's decision so that we can have a set specific answer. Until then, it's all up in the air, right? So if you come across anything that is not on this list, and this is a good study list for you, if there's anything that's not on here that you come across in your IXL that you did not know, I've also made a table for you. Very simple table. You can print it out, or you can just create your own on a piece of paper that you can keep safe and add to your study list. So you've got the idiom on this side and what it means on this side, and add to this list as you go through so that this is a good study list for you. Right, let's get going with today's work. So we're looking today at P2 and P3. And just for a recap of what we're doing, we're going to click on the examples and read about an idiom. So an idiom is a phrase that means something different than what the words in the phrase mean on their own. Under the weather is an idiom. It isn't actually about the weather. It means that he isn't feeling well. Sally stayed home because she's feeling under the weather. The meanings of idioms cannot be found by looking at the meaning of each word. So you have to remember them or figure out their meanings by looking at the context, looking at how they are used. Read the rest of that sentence and see what other clues they might give in that sentence. Okay, all right, so let's go. What is the meaning of in the bag? Does that mean feeling delighted or a certainty? So it means a certainty, and the idea of in the bag, an example would be, somebody in the context, maybe like in it to win it or a minute to win it. So they might go, oh, I've got this one in the bag. I know for sure it's mine. I'm going to win, right? I have it in the bag. Okay, so that shows a certainty. Let's look at this one. What is the meaning of below the belt? Unfair and overly mean, or the seat of someone's pants, right? So this one is actually the literal meaning of that. But if you have made a below the belt comment to somebody, oof, that was below the belt. That means it was like, whoa, that was a little bit rude or unfair, or that was quite mean. So that is the meaning of below the belt. And what is the meaning of when it rains, it pours? You may have heard that again. At the moment, we're going through a crisis, and then there was a state that went through a tornado as well. So like in the middle of the COVID. So for them, they would have said, well, when it rains, it pours. It just means that, wow, like if it's something's happening, there seems to be just this whole lot of things that are happening all at the same time. So let's read the examples. Time feels longer when you're waiting for something. It for sure does, but that's not what the meaning of this is. When one bad thing happens, more bad things also happen. All right. So have you ever had that bad day? You wake up and you like stump your toe or something, and then your toothbrush breaks, or something happens, you spill the milk all over the table, and just like, and this is just like a very simple situation. You might have extreme cases where, you know, you receive phone call after phone call of bad news about family members. All right, so the idiom that you use about is when it rains, it pours. Let's look at P3. And we have just another set of idioms. There are a lot to get through, so definitely be writing them as you go. If you know them, don't worry about writing them down. If you know them, you know them. Write the ones that you don't know down, right? And that's the one that you need to study. Right, if you're sort of unsure and you take a guess and it's right, then you need to write that one down too, because maybe next time you're not sure which one you guessed, and then you might guess the other one by mistake. What is the meaning of at a crossroads? Addison was at a crossroads as she considered whether to stay in her current job or start working for a new company. So this one is a little easier, I feel, because it gives you a bit more of a context to work with. Addison was at a crossroads. She was considering, do I stay here or do I move here? Can you imagine what she might be going through with that? And therefore you can figure out what at the crossroads means. So let's read the two choices. Safe after being in danger. Let's add that into our sentence. Addison was safe after being in danger as she considered whether to stay here or start there. Does that really fit? What about this one? At a point where a decision must be made. Now that makes a bit more sense. So at a crossroads is where you are trying to make a decision. And can you imagine you're in your path and you're like, okay, do I turn left? Do I turn right? And at crossroads, you've even got maybe a third option. All right, so that is a point where a decision must be made. What is the meaning of out of the woods? The storm has passed, but the river was still rising dangerously high, so the town was not out of the woods yet, right? And you may have heard of that being spoken over someone who has been sick or really severely sick, and or they were in hospital and really serious, and they've recovered, but they're not out of the woods yet. Okay, it's still got some place to go. Safe after being in danger, she was not safe after being in danger, or she was no longer deep in the forest. Do you think? The river was still dangerously high. Yeah, they may have been in the forest, but we're saying, like for somebody who's sick, yeah, they're not out of the woods yet. They weren't in the forest, they were in the hospital. So being safe after being in danger means that you're out of the woods. Yeah, he's out of the woods, he's doing well, right? Safe after being in danger. All right, let's try one more together. What is the meaning of long in the tooth? Heard that one before? Long in the tooth. Our dear bandit is not a puppy anymore and is in fact long in the tooth. All right, so they're talking about puppies. So bandit must be, he's not a puppy anymore, so he must be a dog. Our dear bandit is not a puppy anymore. Not a puppy anymore represents growth, age, and is in fact long in the tooth. So in fact going even further. So he's not a puppy, he's a dog, but even further, he's actually quite old. being long in the tooth. Now, don't go around and try to say to people, oh, you're quite long in the tooth. It's not really a nice thing to be telling people that they are old. So be careful which idioms you try to practice, but I would love you to try to incorporate idioms in this long weekend. We've got 3 days. We've got Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and I want you to try to incorporate at least 3 every day in your just conversation. You might have to wangle some things to try to get it out, but see which ones you think are good, not rude ones that might give a little bit of offense to somebody, but try to get them into your language just to be able to practice them. You can spark off some really interesting conversations about where these came from. Why do they say that? Why long in the tooth do your teeth grow? Right? So all these things. But have a good time getting these and have a good day. Ciao for now.